Good afternoon, good morning to my volunteers. I know that this is probably going to be the easiest way for us to get together. So, welcome to my office for some of you that have not been able to see it in quite some time. Thank you, first of all, for being willing to make fully devoted followers of Jesus from our children and working with our families in all the ways that, we can't even put a measurement on. Um, we're going into this first week with our elementary school kids, so our kindergarten through fifth graders. And so, as part of beginning phase one of reopening our North Point Kids program, Kids Grow Groups, there's just a few things I want to make sure that you're aware of and you know to expect. First of all, as we reopen, there's going to be some things that are not going to go like they usually do or as we're planning for them to go. And that is just okay. I might have to remind myself to do this, but I just want to go ahead and remind you now. Take a deep breath, say a quick prayer. Jesus will get us through this. The next thing that I think is very important, while we do have family information forms that we're collecting from families, and while we do have parental mask authorization forms we're collecting from families, there's going to be some questions and maybe some confusion on both sides. So if you do have questions or you are confused, please, please, please know that I am more than happy to do the best I can to answer those. Or at very least, if you have some kind of issue or you have a parent that's confused or frustrated, I want to be the one to step in and try to smooth that over for all of us. So one of the things that is probably going to be a point where there might be the most confusion is about the masks. So for as far as currently, the CDC is still recommending that children age of 10 or older wear masks. We are, of course, going to go along with that as best we can, along with state and local ordinances. And so we're asking our families if their child is 10 or older for them to come in wearing a mask or put their mask on once they arrive. We're encouraging hand washing and all those great things. But the reason this can be somewhat confusing is some kids aren't going to have some on, more than likely. And then other children who are actually younger than 10, their parents are going to put one on them anyway, and that's fine. We're going to go by their parental mask authorization form, but just make sure that when it comes to the mask, that it's not a point of contention, it's not a point of frustration. If they're playing with their mask and they're being as a distraction, certainly feel free to redirect them. But as always, we want to diffuse situations, not make them worse. So if you have somebody that you know is 10, they're not wearing one in these first couple of weeks, let me know, but don't try to handle it. Let me handle it, and I will do my best to smooth it over the families and make sure they understand that for their child to participate, they do need to be in a mask if they're over 10 years old, unless there's a medical condition. And so if there isn't, just assume if they're not, that there is a medical condition, but make sure I also am in the loop so that we can make sure that those confusions are cleared up with families without putting you into undue confusion. So which I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with, though, is that on Sunday morning, families are going to be asked with children to check in the kids building, coming in through the double doors, making sure they're filling out all the forms, getting their temperature checks, screening them for their symptoms. You need to make sure that you get your temperature check when you arrive, as well as getting screened for symptoms. And then feel free to go to the worship center or go ahead and set up your classroom. Also, make sure you wash your hands and those kinds of fun things. We're all really used to at this point. And then from there, the kids will be in the worship center, and hopefully you will be too. When Pastor Freddie begins to preach, be ready to then escort them over to the worship center, spacing them out at 6 feet as best you can in a line. And then there will be Velcro dots in the big room for the kids to sit on at 6 feet distance. Their supplies will be there. They'll have a little box with their name on it with everything they need. And so your job is just to make sure they stay in those seats if you're working in those rooms. And then from there, when we get to dismissal, to make sure they stay seated until we have the opportunity to dismiss them to their parents. And then from there, we just got to sanitize. And if a child needs to go to the bathroom, just continue to follow the child protection policy and social distancing in some kind of blend. Of course, go with them, check the bathroom, those things like normal, but also try not to stand right over them as well as you're walking them there and back. So we're going to prop doors open where we can before and after, and then from there, it's going to be a great experience. And I'm sure you, like me, are very excited to finally be able to do this face to face with kids, especially since it's been so very, very long. Thank you so much for all that y'all do. And I look forward to all that you're about to do as we continue to make fully devoted followers of Jesus from our children. Thanks again.